dumb. He's played by Larry Drake. Larry Drake was the guy who's in L.A. Law. He played another retarded.
Oh,
guy.
the one that played.
Or mentally challenged guy. Yeah,
you're talking about he was the villain in
Dr. Giggles.
And Dr. Well, no one thinking about Dr. Giggles. I was thinking about Darkman.
Yeah, he was the villain in Darkman, and he played Dr. Giggles. Yeah, but basically, yeah, this guy Bubba. He has a little girl as a friend, and a lot of the townspeople aren't too crazy about that because he's like a grown ass man hanging out with a little girl. Well, basically something happens to this little girl where she's left unconscious, and she looks all just tattered and torn, and the local townspeople think that Bubba had something to do with it. So basically what they do is they go track him down. They find him in a cornfield dressed up as a scarecrow, and they basically end up killing him. So the rest of the movie, the towns guy, which is like this postal worker, he was played by Charles Durning. Mm-hmm. He's been in a lot of shit.
Character actor, yeah.
Yeah, he's a character actor. Really great actor, but he plays a postman who's had it out for this guy. And basically him and I believe it's like 3 of his buddies. They're the ones who ended up killing him. But, right after that incident, each of those guys who helped him out, they start dying in weird, mysterious ways, almost like ghostly ways, mm-hmm. the way the film shows their deaths, But it's a great film. Just the way it was shot. The atmosphere of it just really takes control, and it really spooks you out. It is kind of a weird ghost story.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those great films that, unfortunately, it came on CBS that one time, and they may probably have played it once or twice after that, but it's a film that kind of got lost, and it was released on DVD like one time. Not DVD, I'm sorry, VHS. It was
mm-hmm.
released on VHS at one point, and I guess through the years it just kind of like disappeared. So it's off a lot of horror fans' radars, but when they hear about it, they go trying to look for this goddamn film.
Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I know right now, that like I said, they just released it on DVD, but you can find it on YouTube for free, and it's like original presentation where
so you can watch it just like you saw it on that VHS tape. For some reason, that makes some of these movies even creepier, man.
It does. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've been trying to actually track down a VHS copy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only because I have like the DVD. I have like 2 DVD releases of that movie along with the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And every time I see it, I'm like, the picture looks great, but I honestly miss the original way I saw that film, which was on it was something that a buddy of mine taped. He made a copy of it from another DVD, and just the way it looked. I mean, when you were watching that film, it was almost like you're watching a snuff film. It was that creepy, and that just like, oh God, what am I doing?
Sometimes the low quality of something can add to sort of like where people say like the graininess of this added to the documentary feel.
Oh yeah,
of this, or mm-hmm. the gritty, not the gritty, but the graininess of this made it look like it was. Sometimes there's a cheapness that makes it look like, well, that was filmed like by people who probably. I guess it makes it look real because if it's filmed cheaply, mm-hmm. It does add sort of like a snuff film feel to it, because the work in that movie already is sort of documentary like.
Right.
And then when you watch it on a VHS tape and all that graininess with that VHS tape, it looks like it was filmed by somebody who didn't have they didn't have the money to be professional. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the money to make it look clean. It was somebody who went in with what like little cheap ass camera that they had and filmed somebody killing someone.
Oh yeah, and it looks like whoever filmed that fucking went in the backyard, dug up a hole in the ground, put that tape, in the covered up with
tried
dirt,
to hide it,
and then you find it and you put it in, and you're just like, oh man, this thing's all scratched. You see like the tracking lines, as soon as you start to play it, the tracking lines are running up the screen, and you're just like, okay, this is something I should not be watching. And yeah, it really does add to the effect that you're watching something really fucked up, And I've actually caught myself looking for VHS copies of certain films because of that. Like a movie like Deranged that was based off of Ed Gein, which is a really hard film to find. But out of all the films about Ed Gein, that one is like, that's the closest to the stories you can possibly get. That's another. It's called Deranged. Try to look for that one too. That one is on DVD with Motel Hell.
Oh wow, that
Yeah, yeah,
Motel Hell, the one with where they bury people up to their necks,
Yeah.
and let the ground marinate them, let
Yeah.
let it like marinate the meat, like the worms and stuff,
Oh,
like
yeah,
marinate them. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you watch it, it really is a bad movie.
It is, but just the charm of it and the fact that, these are films that were made with grown-ass adults that, that's what I loved about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. The actors are like, these are old guys, and they're being hunted down by this unknown force, or at least these guys in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow think that, somebody's plotting against them, trying to get revenge for them killing Bubba. Which is another great aspect of Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. It really plays on those characters and like the series of events that happens. It makes them question like, okay, what the fuck is going on? They don't believe it's anything supernatural at all. They think it's just somebody out trying
and
to
so
get
the
revenge.
audience is led to believe this kind of too. Like, it's all right.
Yeah, you're
naturally
you're
somebody's
trying-
out to get revenge.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out
It's
like
Scooby-Doo.
what exactly is going on. Yeah, and which makes it great. And to add to that, this movie, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, has by far one of the creepiest fucking endings to any.
Well, that's
movie
what I was going to say. I remember the ending to
this.
this. You can watch the whole thing, as you said, in installments on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to watch some of it or watch all of it, that's cool. If you just want to skip to the ending, you can get to the last part of that. And that ending, again, there's nothing particularly gory about this film.
Not at all.
Nothing really that violent. I mean, there's some violent deaths, but they're not, they're not what we have
They're not
today.
Friday
where
the 13th.
It's not Saw 3 or anything like that, where they're just
Bullshit.
eviscerating people and people's guts are being torn out. No, it's just the creep factor there, like the unknown. And at the end of the movie, they still don't show you a whole lot, but it's just enough for your imagination to run away with itself.
It is, and that's honestly what really works. Now I know a lot of kids will probably look for that, and they'll probably come back to me after seeing it and go, "Man, that was really slow." Well, it's a movie that takes its time. It does play out like a thriller, but it's a thriller horror film, and just if you could just stop and just appreciate the acting that goes involved, the them really telling a real story, that could easily happen. Not saying that scarecrows are going to come and get you, but
a retarded scarecrow, for lack of a better word.
Scarecrow probably would. Yeah, he probably wouldn't get that far. He'd probably be amazed for like the whole movie that he's back to life and scarecrow. But just it's an old school of making films anymore that you just don't see at all. You don't really see that anymore. You don't see people really taking these stories, including the actors, seriously.
Well, I tell you, man, that's one of the things. I know we've all had our gripes about Paranormal Activity and Paranormal Activity 2, but I do have to give that movie credit for the things that we're talking about. I mean, today, a lot of things don't work for the reasons that we said. It's just too much polish. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's too much. I'm not going to go through the list that we've said before, but these movies are too clean.
Yeah.
And they have too much money being thrown at them, and therefore there's just so much star power and so much cinematography that the filmmakers are proud of. We mentioned the CG. They were happy that they got this artist to be on there. They're just showing off, man. They're showing off all the money that they were able to get for this. Are they just throwing it together because we got to put some sort of teaser that will get the audience in? Even if it's not scary, we got to attract them and get them in the seats for that first weekend. Everybody's so worried about getting people into the theater that they have forgotten about what makes things scary. And Paranormal Activity is one of those movies where it's not polished. It's actually it's very cheap.
Yeah. No, it is, and
it is very slow. I mean, it takes its time. It does, and it plays on the audience. The audience. It might not scare us when the way we talk about it. We talk about these movies.
We're so jaded. We've seen so many.
Yeah, we've seen so many. But that audience that's watching it, they have a lot to fill in for that film. That movie allows those people to scare themselves. I mean, that's because that's what's happening.
Yeah, and that's what works to his benefit, which is why I think a lot of those times those movies are really successful. And it's one of those films where it's going to work on some and not as much on others. The Blair Witch is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Where you really it's not a straight horror film by any means. It really plays on just the fears of your own imagination.
Yeah.
And, that can work great. I love films like that. I really do.
When you have to think about, there's a classic story that people often use now as the I guess as a prime example of how to keep some of that scariness for the audience, how to let the audience fill in the blanks and scare themselves. You know that story, The Monkey's Paw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a classic story where I forgot who wrote it, but there's have you read this story before? You remember this story?
I read it a long time ago. Yeah.
For people who don't know it, I'm sure a lot of kids have had to read this in school. A woman, this couple, they lose their son at a factory, I think. A son falls into a machine and ends up getting mangled, and he dies, and the mom is just torn apart by this. And I forgot who comes by to give her this monkey's paw, but it's a salesman or something. They say, you are able to make a wish with this, anything you want. And this woman holding the monkey's paw wishes that her son was back. And outside of the door, you hear like coming up the sidewalk, just something like sloshing and, it sounds disgusting, whatever it is, approaching the door. And I think they get like 2 or 3 wishes, and they've already used 2. That second wish was used to for the son to come back. And the father hears this, and he's trying to he told the mother, don't wish for that, but she did anyway. So now this horrible thing has come to the door, and the father is able to grab the monkey's paw from her and wish for it to go back wherever it came from. This thing coming towards the door, and they open the door, and all they see is this shadow shambling away. And so it's a creepy story because they never see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Something just went away. And so a lot of people have said, gore and special effects and whatnot, they have its place. And people want to see that. Nobody should take that away from anyone. I mean, I want to see that. That's why we have the Saw movies.
Right. That's why we have the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. That's why we have slasher films and all that kind of stuff. But every now and then, it's really nice to see someone just be very subtle about the horror and leave it up to people to just fill the blanks for themselves and scare themselves. Well, somebody looks at Paranormal Activity and sees we look at it and a pot falls off the shelf and we're like, all right, it's a fucking pot,
yeah,
okay?
It's a pot. We kind of saw that in the first movie.
Yeah, somebody had a pot on a string and pulled it and took it off. But the rest of the audience is saying, oh, fuck, you see that demon? Mm-hmm. That demon took that pot off the shelf and dropped it on the floor.
Well, it's just the audience is paying money and they want to be scared. They really want that. I mean, they're looking for that. It's their haunted house,
Yeah.
And that's what they look for. And when you're looking for it, more than likely you're going to get it,
And a lot of people say that, okay, the whole thing of the found footage genre or gimmick or trick or films, it's getting old. And I say, I don't think so. No. I say they're repeating the same things that we've seen over and over again, but I still think that there's more that people can do with that. And the reason why I'd like to see people keep doing it is because I think they are scary. Because the reason why I said polished sometimes take away things and why we like the VHS copies and stuff, all the you see the track marks on it and everything. It's because it just makes it seem like it's closer to home.
It really does. It's funny. I think about that, and it's like, when you go to a hardware store and you see a brand new axe. Just brand new, shiny. You can say the same thing about a shovel. Brand new, shiny. You don't think anything of it when you see it. But if you go to some old ass house, where you go into a work shed that hasn't been used in a billion years, and you see a shovel that has all kinds of dirt and all kinds of other shit on it that you can't explain, with a somewhat handle with a wooden handle that's splintered to hell. That shit looks creepy. It's just like,
yes.
Oh, fuck, like what the hell was done with this thing?
Well, let's think about old films, man. I mean, looking at the old, what is it? It's German, right? Nosferatu. Looking at the old black and white Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And a lot of movies like that, old black and white is scary.
Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead.
The one movie I see every Halloween. Yeah, I mean, that is one of those movies that when I saw it on TV. It didn't look like a DVD copy that you can watch these days. It looked old. It looked, it just looked like it'd seen some years, especially when it was rebroadcast, and you watch that and you catch the news announcer, you see the parts where you see the news anchor talking about what's going on, the situation at hand. And when I saw that, it felt like, wow, somebody shot this footage of this news team doing this report. and it felt very real. I honestly thought, man, this happened. This fucking happened.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't know when, but it happened. Way before my time, but it happened.
yeah, no. Sometimes when things don't look clean, it not only does it like make it seem close to home, because look, we've grown up in an age now of everybody having a camera, and we know what we can do when the camera's in our hands. Shit don't look right. So if we see somebody shooting with a camera and that shit looks